All right, welcome to another Deal Structure Sunday. Nick and I are going to dive into a little bit different setup here, meaning we're not going to give you the 3 paydays and whiteboard this or anything like that. What we got asked a lot, and we got asked to do this at the summit, the Wicked Smart Summit live event, and we just frankly ran out of time. We get asked a lot, okay, well, so all your buyers need credit repair and all your sellers are in, dire need and desperate? No and no. So we're going to talk about where do the buyers come from, where do the sellers come from, just to give you, and we could go on and on and on, hundreds of deals. We're just going to do a few. So you get a sense that it's always different. And when you know what you're doing, there's always an answer. So Nick, with that as a backdrop, let's just dive into, I got a list here, but let's just dive into the address, number 40. We're not going to give addresses on the video, but number 40 D Street, you know what I'm talking about, right? And that's in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about the seller. You talk about the buyer, and we'll just see what we remember on each deal. But I know the seller was moving out of the area, and I believe it was for children's school issues. So they were leaving no matter what. He was going to put a renter in the property. I'm glancing at his testimonial that he gave us, which is awesome. He was going to put a rent on the property, and then his past experience was somebody wasn't paying him. So he was just tired and didn't want to go that route again, but he thought that was his only option. So we had talked about a sandwich lease. And then the more we talked, he just wanted to be done and he didn't have equity. So we ended up buying it subject to the existing mortgage. He went off and bought a house, even though this was in his name. I'm not going to get into an instructional video here. You can find that in the Q&As, but the sellers can still do that.
It didn't start out. Do you want to talk about how it started out? It didn't start out like that, I don't think.
Well, it started as the sandwich discussion, but it did. Sometimes it goes to a sandwich and then pivots to a sub 2 later on. This one pivoted during the conversation, like during the week or two that we were talking to him. And he said, yeah, I'd rather be done with it. And well, let me say a script on that. And then I'll ask you about the buyer, like why they did it. The script is real simple. Do you want to do a lease purchase or do you want to actually sell it? Then you can talk about how it works, but you just want to get the buyer thinking, the seller thinking, I want to sell it. So that was him. I'm reading his testimonial to see if there's anything in here. At the end of the testimonial, Nick, he says they were able to take largely everything off our hands and handle it entirely on their end, financially and otherwise. And he said, I realized the second month of the mortgage being paid that these guys were the real thing, basically. Because people start the deals with us and like, oh, I hope they pay. And then as soon as 2 months went by, he's like, oh, this works. So anyway, that's his makeup. We cashed him out.
Those guys sound pretty great. They got a good setup going on.
Us.
Yeah.
All right. So what about the buyer? Where'd they come from? Because again, I want to answer the question for the viewer. Like, who does this? What seller and what buyer does this?
Sure. He was a contractor for, gosh, I would say if memory serves me, over 20 years. He had gone from working for a company for, I think it was anywhere in the 16 to 18 year range to working on his own.
Oh, yeah.
And because of that, he wasn't able to get a loan, but he was very established, meaning he knew what he was doing. So it wasn't like this guy could be out of work for very long, even if for whatever reason, it didn't work out. It did work out. He did get his business established and he was able to cash the house out and move on.
So let's clarify that, though. You and I know what you're saying, but some of the viewers won't. So he went to do his own business, and this is happening a lot during COVID and after COVID. That's why I want to say it. He went to do his own business. When you go in to get a loan, if you're not aware of this, and a lot of people aren't, when you go in to get a loan, if you started your own business, most banks are going to want 2 years, what they call seasoning, 2 years of you and your own business reporting tax returns. And that's what he needed. That's it. Right, Nick?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was very experienced, meaning like he'd been doing it. He'd been doing his craft, his trade for over 20 years. So
it made us comfortable. Yeah. It's not like he's going off and starting to sell widgets for the first time ever, and we hope he makes it, so we take him in the house.
Yeah, and coincidentally, that's become our avatar. Someone who, whenever I'm on the phone with someone and they say, yeah, they list on their forms after they view the home and like it, that they've been at a place for a couple of years or 5 years. And then in the conversation, they say, yeah, I've been in the field for over 20 or 30 years. That's ding, ding, ding. That's our buyer.
Yep.
A lot of the buyers you work with are established in their craft, in their field.
Love it. So that's one deal. It's just one deal, guys. And the guy happened to live in the neighborhood, by the way. So Nick, I don't know if, do you remember if you just saw the sign or did he call off an ad? I don't remember, but he's right down the street.
An ad. No, it was an ad. I remember that. And he said it was funny that this worked out. It was right down the street. Yeah.
Nick, do you have one in mind you want to do next? I have a whole bunch here that we can pick from. Anyone in mind that you go out? Let's talk about, something different than those scenarios. I mean, how about Dr. Tony? That one. He was the seller, remember. I'm abbreviating because you know who that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
99.
I'd love to talk about that because the buyer on that's a slam dunk. I still love the buyer.
And it's different.
Great relationship with him.
Okay, so again, I'm gonna queue up this deal from the seller side and how we did it as a team. These deals are all me, Nick, and Zach's deals, by the way, for the viewers to know that. But I'm not going to get into all these deals. Have very cool deal structure components to them too, but they've already been done. They're in Deal Structure Sunday, math wise. Okay, so this one was seller makeup. Why'd they do this? Okay, house was free and clear. 3 kids, second home, access to a lake. That's why it's a second home. Why did the seller want to sell? Owner financing, principal only payments to us? Because everybody says, well, they had to be hurt. No, this, no. Sadly, one of his children died when they were at that house on that lake. Okay, long story short. So when we prospected him, he wasn't selling it and winter was coming and he was way out west. This was going to be a headache. He did not want to come back because of the unfortunate death. Okay, so Zach talked to them on the phone. My son-in-law, Nick's brother-in-law, the brothers-in-laws. Zach set the whole appointment up, met him, really agreed to owner financing. And then he was busy doing something. I think he might have been traveling for the team. And then I went and met the gentleman, the seller, and he put his wife on the speakerphone. That's how this appointment went down. And long story short, that was his motivation. All he wanted to know was, can I get this thing done, closed out before the winter? And can I trust these guys? And let me just say this, Nick, there's nothing to do with the buyer seller. But the reason he trusted us is we know the scripts around credibility. We know how to establish credibility, and our associates know how to establish credibility. And there's one thing there that I'll plant, and that is we can help you, if you're an associate, get accredited. And if not, you just go through our course, you get certified. To be certified or accredited with what? Creative Financing Real Estate Association. The only way you're going to get it done is going through our QLS course, home study course, or being an associate. That puts people at ease because you are certified or accredited by Creative Financing Real Estate Association. Okay. All right. So he trusted it. He had a burning desire and he was debt free. And we cut an amazingly productive deal for 4 years. So Nick, why did the buyer do it? I honestly forget what the buyer makeup was.
This was just to put this into perspective, this was not the first buyer that we had at the property. It was a very unique situation. Where we inherited a tenant that was living in the first floor of the property. It didn't really work out with him for a while. Then we were working with some buyers that had a life event and couldn't go forward with the purchase. Once they moved out, we had enough time left in our term to work with another buyer. This buyer is one of our best that we've had over the years. He's actually a teacher. I was just reading through his testimonial that he did with us, or his review that he did with us. He was a teacher. He was actually right in line for the principalship to become a principal at the school that he taught at.
Did you make that up or is that real? Principalship?
I don't know if that's a word. I think that's the word that we used when we were.
Okay, well, then it is now.
Yeah, so I can't think of any other way. Anyway, he was really established in that he had a great job. He had an income. It wasn't a great income, but he had an established income that it was solid. And then he was actually a consultant because he was a chemistry teacher, science teacher. He had an established side business where he was a consultant for a beer company. like one of those craft breweries. So he had several things going on, and he just, with what was going on in his life, it fit, our program fit his needs perfectly.
Why couldn't he get a loan right away, Nick?
He wanted to buy, he just needed more time to save for his down payment.
Wow.
And our rent to own program gave him the perfect on ramp that he needed to buy a home, and like I said, fit his situation perfectly. Met for the buyers meeting, and I can remember that like it was yesterday. I feel like it was.
And this is just for context. This is already cashed out, 4 years later. This cashed out a year or two ago, right?
Yeah, he cashed it out in like 18 or 19 months. Yeah. It happened very quickly. But he said when we actually got together with you for the buyers meeting, that's when we realized that it was real, and everything you say in your videos, you do follow through with. So I don't know if these deal structures, if you're noticing a theme, but we do what we say we're gonna do. So that was pretty cool.
I'm glancing down. Tony's the seller's testimonial is rather large. It's like the whole thing here. But he said something similar. He said, once we agreed upon the price, it was 100% turnkey for us, and that was exactly what we were looking for. We saw the program worked in real time, in real life, and it was a huge stress off of us. And he just goes through to say, every time we asked the question, we got an answer. They did what they said they were going to do. So here's something important before you go to the next one. And then maybe we'll do two that are very abbreviated, like here was the reason, here was the reason. But here's something important for Nick and I to say. I won't use names, it's not important, but you can go on podcast after podcast after podcast right now, and you can listen to people that are in our space or even dabbling in our space, and you will, for sure, guaranteed, hear them say, with the rent-to-own market, you don't have to care if they get financing. You don't have to care if they get cashed out, because you just stick them in the home, and you actually don't want them to get cashed out, because then you put another buyer in and collect another deposit. I'm telling you that publicly, they say that over and over again. And if you're a student and you're following that, I would suggest you run, because it's going to be a headache for you. And Nick will tell you how many headaches he's had to work out like that. And if you're new to real estate, looking at who to connect with and a community to connect with, one of our values is that we conduct all transactions with the highest integrity. It's on our wall. It's behind Nick's left shoulder. I can see it. And it's very important to us as a company. So our default rate is like 2 to 10%. I used to say 2 to 5, but I'm being safe, 2 to 10%. That's an inverse relationship to many educators out there. I won't say all, because I don't know all, but the ones that I'm aware of, they have a default rate of about 80%. That is bogus for the buyers, the poor buyers. So I just want to make sure I make that distinction.
Even that's high. You're being very generous in that. I would say it's more. I'm a generous. I would say it's more 40 to 50%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, we want to make sure we're setting up the buyer for success and being able to close and get their own loan. He actually said one thing along those lines at the end of his review, that really not much has changed since I was able to get my own loan, and that's because you treat me and I act and behave as if I'm a buyer from the beginning. Like we don't bother each other. We give him his space. So really nothing else has changed other than me not worrying about when we're going to actually have the closing. So that was another thing to mention.
Nick, let's talk about one that, let's do two more. One that didn't cash out yet. They're currently in there. And the reason I want to do it is I love the seller side of this, because it was another pivot. Let's do 35 South. Is that right?
All right.
All right. So while Nick's turning his notes, this is a house again in New England. It's me, Nick, and Zach Steele. And the reason I thought of doing this, I looked at the address and I remembered the seller like it was yesterday. In fact, we probably texted in the last year or so. And here's why I want to say this. This gentleman had moved out of the property. I believe he had remarried, like his life's changed, and he was trying to sell the house and it didn't sell. Okay. Wasn't stressed. He was paying his first and his second mortgage. No problem. But he wanted closure. This happens a lot, guys. So the unique part about this, other than, hey, I'm out of the house and I just want closure and it didn't sell yet, and we live in New England, right, with weather coming. It started as a sandwich for quite some time. I forget how long, but then I had the conversation that I'll teach you guys how to have, the viewers here, and that is how to take a sandwich lease arrangement and turn it into a sub 2. to this day, we still have this house. And this was years ago. The sandwich would have ended a long time ago. And you'll find, I'm going to next week actually film a brand new video on the advantages of sub two and owner financing versus just sandwich. So ownership versus control. Because I know a lot of educators are screaming control. Doesn't compare to ownership. So Nick, that's the seller backdrop. Buyers that are in there that you recall, because on this one, I don't remember at all. So I hope I didn't set you up for, or we don't know.
No, that's okay. Sue and I, our assistant, talk about them to this day. They're one of, if not the best.
The fact that I don't know means they're probably great because I don't talk about them in our meetings.
Exactly. You don't hear about them. They're great. They are they're just in a situation they were looking to get established and looking to buy a house, and they just said it was very aggravating for us because we weren't going to be in that position credit wise and like checking all the boxes off that
credit was one of them, most definitely, right?
Yeah, exactly. They weren't going to be there for a very long time, and we gave them hope. They said they take care of their clients more than anyone we've worked with, get right to the solution. And the thing is that we're helping like this community in this neighborhood, in this house was sitting vacant and kind of, I don't want to use the word decrepit, but not like neglected is the word that I'm looking for. It was just sitting vacant and neglected for years. And then they got in there, these buyers got in there. They're one's a barber, owns his own barber business, and the other one, Amanda, I believe she has several businesses off the top of my head. So they have a lot going on. When they moved into the house, they were able to get everything cleaned up, really take care of it just like it was their own. And they really, one of the things that they say is the neighbors opened us with open arms. They're always coming by to see what they can do to help. They see the buyers out there with their kids all the time, and they love seeing new blood in the neighborhood. So,
all right, so compare that, Nick. Let me jump in. Compare that as you're talking about that. I'm picturing all the buyers that we did this for to date, and even currently the ones we're working with. And that is that a lot of them lost hope. Like, especially recently when the rates went up. These are buyers that get in way before COVID, but even during COVID and after COVID, when the rates went up recently, a lot of people lost hope. Some people in tears thinking they were planning for years to buy a home and rates doubled. Now they're out of the market. We gave them the hope back. So you talk about that experience that Nick mentioned, that goes on and on. People are in tears because of it. It's really cool. Nick, let's do one more, but let's just highlight, and you can pick one, highlight the reason briefly. And
let's do the
just say the number. I'll know which one you're talking about.
or
well, go ahead. You start and I'll know it. I don't know it yet.
So the seller, I'll start it off before you get what I'm talking about. The seller was actually they were leaving the state, and
I think you made that one up because I don't see four. You have to give me a little more hints as you're going through your explanation.
All right. So because no one else can see our pages, our book that we're working off of, page 3.
Yeah.
So you'll see right there in the middle of the page.
All right.
Alan?
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So you want to talk about the seller situation first?
I see his first name, but is that, oh, I got it. Yeah. I got it.
Hey, Dan.
Get a minute. Yeah, they don't know what you're saying. They got to explain to them what you're saying. To be honest with you, Zach did that deal 100%. I don't remember his or her motivation. Do you?
Yeah, they were in a situation, just reading off the notes here, with limited equity, and they would have to come out of it's common, would have to come out of pocket to pay the realtor's commission.
Yep.
And it was extremely stressful for them because they didn't know there was any other way that this could be done. And then Zach reached out to them, alleviate a lot of their stress that they made. And as opposed to just selling the house and having to pay a high commission, which they would have to come out of pocket.
Out of pocket. Yeah. Most people think that's what you do. Hey, on that note, Brian O'Neill, one of our most successful associates, had one experience in real estate before joining our community, selling his own home and coming out of pocket to pay the realtor. There you go. Same as this guy. How about the buyers, Nick? Because I know you will know that from memory. And then I'll give these guys some ways they can learn more about this and we'll move on.
Yeah, absolutely. The buyer was self-employed, actually owned his own. He's still in the property, going through the process. He owns his own fencing company, and because of the whole self-employed nature, was just not able to get a loan. And that wasn't even mainly it. What was mainly it was he was coming out of a divorce, where he was in a relationship with someone, his significant other, where it was kind of a unique situation where she was I don't want to say the breadwinner, but she was
Yeah, but what made them do this? Like, what was the...
Well, no, not them. I'm getting to that. So she was they were like financially independent, her, and that's who he was married to. And the divorce, and they broke up and it didn't work out. He had his own business prior, and he was never able to do anything on his own. So when we gave him this path to home ownership, he said, like, geez, you guys are like making me believe and giving me hope to say that I can do this. Like, I can do this on my own, and I can own a house and close on this and be able to move on and be self-sufficient. Where before he didn't have that. He didn't have that independence because the person he was married to was financially well off. So a little bit different of a scenario, but still important to mention.
We've hit new job, we've hit divorce, we've hit not new job, new business, divorce, clean up credit, increase credit score, increase down payment. We hit all those in those deals. Didn't you have a guy recently right here in this office? We're both in the office today, just using Zoom to film. Didn't you have a guy sit in your office we had a flood in our building, so we had no conference room. And he was sitting in your office for the buyers meeting, and he also was in tears that he came out of a divorce and you gave him like a pathway for home ownership.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we're still working with him, and we just got him into the house earlier this month. But that was really, he got emotional. It was right here. We didn't even have a conference room, so it was literally over a stump. Over a tree stump decoration that you have in your office. That's what we use for our table. We were meeting with him, and he broke down, and he said, you guys care so much, and like you're giving me such hope that I can do this. And he actually said, he goes, I'm everything in my life is dialed in, is good. It's just my selection of women, he said, is not too on point. So he said, I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity, and I'm not going to let you down. I'm not going to let you down. Excuse me.
So I hope that for the Wicked Smart viewers, I hope that gives you an idea of it's not one type of buyer and it's not one type of seller. And quite frankly, I just put down, you probably saw me put down the list that Nick and I had, and we only pulled like, I don't know, 10 or 12 out of several hundred. So just know that creative real estate more than ever is in hot demand with the market doing what it's doing, like more than ever. And just know, I'll give you some just knows. Just know that if it's up, down, or sideways of the market, it is also always the best avenue. I'm biased because we're in it and we've trademarked the 3 paydays and other things, but I'm telling you, you'll have that same experience. Now, I'd like you to have the experience in 2 ways, and then we'll let you run. One is, if you don't have our books, the Amazon bestsellers, I want to have you get an opportunity to get those. And you don't have to go to Amazon. You don't have to spend 10 cents, and that includes no shipping. And that is, just go to Wicked Smart Books, wickedsmartbooks.com/YouTube. So I know it came from this video. You get a free book. It'll get shipped out of this office. Give us a couple weeks. wickedsmartbooks.com/YouTube. It's free. Nick and I would like you to know and explore and be able to do your due diligence without paying 10 cents. And then you'll know if you want to come talk to us. And if you don't, it's okay. But at least you did it for free. And secondly, if you're serious and committed after that, or you think you are now, come to see us live right here in Newport, Middletown, Rhode Island area. Go to qlslive.com. You can register for that event. All right, Nick, thanks. Any last parting words?
No, there's all different types of situations that we work with. We help all different kinds of buyers, and this is a small snippet of the buyers that we've helped. And it's not just just bankruptcy or just divorce. It's everything. We help all kinds of buyers. So
Yeah, come see us live at that event. We're gonna do live calls, but you can also talk to hundreds of students just like you and understand how they started, why they started, where they're going, what they've accomplished, and they'll share some challenges along the way that you don't have to go through. All right, make it a great week. See you next week on the next Deal Structure Sunday.